High Vibe humans. Hello, hello, and welcome to another Awakened and Empowered Women Interview series interview. So, this is celebrating Women's History Month, which is in March, and I'm really excited to have our guest, Natasha, the Reframe Queen, here today. She is a spiritual influencer where she just puts out these really authentic videos. What I really appreciate about her is her authenticity. I am live streaming today with paint all over my fingers from having painted some bookshelves for my new baby, and that kind of reminded me of her take on how to really present yourself to social media, being authentic, being real, being raw. So I'm really excited to have her on today to talk about her process. We're going to dive into 8 questions of how she has helped heal from difficult situations and what she plans on doing next in her life. So I'm really excited to have her on this morning. I'm going to go ahead and invite her in. My name is Brianna, also known as Breezy Spread Love on the internet, and I have dedicated my life to helping individuals heal one person at a time, one adventure at a time, because I think it's important to stay healthy, stay light, and not give up the fight on yourself in order to spread love and positive vibes in this world. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her in. There we are. The Reframe Queen. She also has many followers on TikTok, so she puts out really fun content on TikTok. Why can't I find her? Seems like we're having some technical difficulties this morning. I'm not able to locate her username, the Reframe Queen. There it is. There we go. Thanks, Google, for listening to me. Awesome.
Yay!
Hi!
Hi!
Did it!
We made it out alive.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on here and introduce you to all the awesome High Vibe humans here today. Did you want to go ahead and take some time to introduce yourself, what you do, who you are?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Natasha. I honestly never know how to introduce myself because I have an interesting relationship with identity and kind of just want to make room for just everything and not limit myself to one thing. But I make spiritual videos on TikTok, talk about mind management. I'm kind of obsessed with just posing thought-provoking questions to increase mindful awareness, and it's just, I don't know, it's just fucking fun to me. So yeah, philosophical gal right here.
Very. I love your questions that you put out on not only TikTok, but also on the new Ibble app. I'll love that as well. And so I have the sound saved on my TikTok, and it's like the spiritual version of this one song. Do you remember what song that is?
Yes, I Will Survive. Are you thinking of that one?
Yes.
Yeah, oh my god, that was so fun to film. Like, I don't know, the downloads just come through and Spirit's like, here, write this, and I'm like, okay.
I was going to ask you your process on that. Did you just got inspired?
Yeah, it's funny with because like I have a few of like the spiritual versions of songs, of popular songs, and it just randomly comes to me where a line, and I'm like, oh shit, that's good, and then it just comes through little by little, and the song forms, and there it is. It just comes on in.
Awesome. So where are you located right now?
I'm in NYC.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's so fun. Well, cool, awesome. So let's get to know you a little bit more. Like I kind of know you peripherally, but I'd like to know what 5 words would you choose to describe yourself?
Yes. I would say, funny enough, mindful, distracted at the same time, loving, compassionate, accepting. So.
Beautiful. I can tell that you're a very accepting person. You know, you talk about it a lot on your social media. I like how you embrace the duality, though, that you're mindful and distracted.
Yes, thank you. No, I hear like my toilet running in the background, and I'm like, let me go close the door. I'm like, I'm just.
No worries. I love that the pointing out the duality and like being really accepted of that, because there are so many times when we like I like so you say you have this like issue with identity, or you like
Mhm.
struggle with identifying, and I think that that's because we oscillate between one thing or the other, and we don't really want to grasp onto one thing, because like obviously from an example of me personally being a bubbly person and then having those days when you don't feel that bubbly.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh, I can relate to that so much. Where it's just like you don't want to label yourself that, and then people expect that of you all the time, right?
Hmm.
Totally.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. So the next question I have is like, who inspires you? Who is your favorite mentor?
Um, Life is my favorite mentor. I love life. Life always gives me what I need when I need it. Life has sent me you. I love your tarot readings. Like, you guys need to check out her tarot readings on Ibble, because oh my God, your event from the other day. I get emotional about everything. I feel like crying right now just remembering it, because it just resonated so much. So thank you for that. But yeah, life sends me everybody I need. You know, you're a teacher. Everyone's a teacher that's around me, and like I never. I what am I trying to say? It's I always get what I need. That's pretty much the summary of that. So I'm thankful to life.
I really enjoy that answer, thinking about life as and allowing all those teachers to come to you when you need them the most. So, one, thank you so much for the high compliments. I really appreciate it. You are also someone who inspires me. So, I understand that answer of life, because you find people who inspire you, who, give you those aha moments where the light bulb comes on. And they, after a while, become, your mentor, or like someone that you can learn things from. They become like a teacher to you. So thank you so much.
Of course, yeah, it's the truth.
So let's dive a little bit deeper. Would you be willing to share a difficult experience or situation and how you overcame it?
Yeah, of course. So when I think about this question, I don't necessarily think of like a specific experience, but what it boils down to is the mind creating difficulty and creating
Mm.
challenges. And so in that way, I use mindfulness a lot to, um, I don't know if I want to say manage the mind. I say that a lot, but I don't want to say like I'm controlling it. I'm just changing my relationship to the mind, because I do my best to not be ruled by it and undo the conditioning that the mind even has power, because we're so taught that, oh, this thought is here, this is bad, and we believe everything the mind says, when so much of the time the mind isn't even telling you the truth, right? It's like jumping to worst case scenarios that never happen, and it's jumping to conclusions that where you don't have enough information to even assess the situation, and there are just so many things. And so I bring this curiosity to the mind whenever I find it spiraling, or when I'm in like a high emotional state. um, it's kind of like, I've trained myself at this point where it triggers that curiosity. I'm like, okay, where's this coming from? And it really is a training that we've been trained to react a certain way to certain situations and to certain thoughts, when all they are thoughts. So
I love that perspective. It falls, for me, it falls under like the cognitive behavioral therapies, where you're recognizing the thought as it arises and you like dissect it to find out, how it's affecting your emotional state and your behaviors. And I really like that. It's refreshing to hear that, because it is important to acknowledge how society has trained us to respond to certain stimuli. And I love that you have trained yourself now to, and I like how you call it curiosity, to be curious about, well, where is this thought coming from? Is it my thought or is it somebody else's thought?
exactly. Oh my God. Like, I always like to say that like your life is just one giant song stuck in your head, and we don't realize it. We don't blame ourselves if a song is stuck in our head. That's just how the brain works. We're not like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm an idiot for having Baby by Justin Bieber stuck in my head. Like,
Yeah.
great song, by the way. But you know, I feel like everything in life is this song in our head, and we identify with it when it's not something we've necessarily generated ourselves. It's just what we've heard, and so it just plays on repeat. And so, yeah, that awareness is really liberating.
I like that analogy of like having a song stuck in your head. You know, it's not necessarily when you have a thought come up, it's not necessarily, it might not even be yours. It might be something that you've heard from somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm constantly questioning. I'm like, is it where'd you come from? Like, I don't know if I believe you.
That's a great way to deal with difficult situations and difficult people. Because oftentimes, like, people can trigger us, right? And we want to respond and get on our soapbox, but then we're like, wait a minute. So then you just, one of your words was compassion, you know, then you have to like use compassion for that individual and in that situation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And like compassion for the self too. Um, like both ways is super important to me, and in being more compassionate to myself, like it just the natural repercussions of that is being compassionate to others. And yeah, I don't know. The mindfulness has changed my goddamn life.
It's very true. Uh, I like, so you do make content about mindfulness and how to get into meditating and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, so would you mind sharing, or do you think that these experiences really helps you make your content?
Yeah, for sure. Whenever something happens and then I'm like, I learn from it in some way, okay, I'm like, oh, I gotta make a video about this so everyone knows. And you know, a lot of people can relate to that because I do my best to just show up authentically and talk about my struggles. And I never want to appear a certain way, like I've got it all figured out. And because I don't. And that's the funny thing about mindfulness. I feel like it's one of the more, in my opinion, one of the more down to earth, I guess, healing modalities. It's like you meet a mindfulness teacher and you realize they're exactly like you. It's just showing up as you are. That's what it comes down to.
Mhm.
And undoing the conditioning that you've gotta hide parts of yourself, that you've gotta, you know, show up as a perfectionist. Yeah, I could go on forever, honestly.
Yeah, if you all the high vibe humans tuning in, please check out the Reframe Queen on Instagram and on TikTok, and also on Ibble if you've downloaded the Ibble app, because she does have a lot of like authentic content coming from the heart, describing your journey through mindfulness.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here with paint on my fingers, you know, and I was like frantically trying to peel it off and then thinking to myself, no, because Natasha would just be like, show up authentically, whether your hair is washed or not, you know.
I love that so much. Yeah.
Mhm.
I lots of hearts, lots of love for that.
Yeah, the high five humans here are throwing up a lot of heart emojis for you today.
Aw, yeah.
Um, People are definitely commenting on things and how like it's really creative to describe things the way you're describing them. So
Aw.
I know you've been working a lot with mindfulness. What is your greatest fear and how do you mitigate that?
I'm gonna say it goes back to thoughts again. There are definitely like repeated thoughts that come up for sure, like all of us, where we go back to a past event, or you know, just a lot of fearful things. And for me, mitigating that is a lot of the mindfulness practice is what's the word? I don't know, just showing up as my authentic self and bringing that mindfulness to it and recognizing that it is just a thought. It's pretty much like my same answers before. um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think recognizing the conditioning of fear, like how we've been conditioned to fear thoughts and to fear certain things in life. Um, we fear the opinions of others constantly, right? We're told that another person's opinion weighs way more than our own opinion about ourselves. We're taught not to trust ourselves, even when the signs are right in front of us, right? Like, how many people can relate to asking for confirmation from the universe, getting those synchronicities and signs coming through, and you get like 10 of them in a row, and you're still like, wait, but could you give me like one more sign to confirm that I should that thing? Because the conditioning like runs so fucking deep, and so it doesn't mean something's wrong with you for asking that confirmation. It just means that that's just the program running. That's just what you've been trained to react to. You were trained not to trust yourself. And so really it's undoing, I'm getting goosebumps from that, but like, it's a retraining or a remembering that we can trust ourselves, that's the truth, and to pay attention to what's happening in front of us and not necessarily what's happening in the mind. What's the evidence that life is showing us? What's the universe showing us? Whatever, that's why life's my favorite teacher, because it's really about bringing your own experience into it, and just, I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought here, but it it's just I have no words. I'm just thankful for that, and I forgot what the first question even was that you asked. Oh, how do I mitigate through fear? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically bringing that mindfulness practice, and the reason I practice mindfulness, one of the main reasons, is to, I hope. Oh, okay. It froze. um, so nothing's more thrilling to me than discovering who I really am. And that's what mindfulness helps me do, because I realize I'm undoing everything that I thought I was. Like, even our aspirations as a society, what drives us, right? Like, we want to maybe be the CEO of our own company, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that could be your genuine dream. But we're living in a society that promotes that, right? And so upon closer inspection, sometimes we realize, oh, I never wanted that. I mean, how many times have we manifested things or gone after a goal, get it, totally unsatisfied, and it was because it was a conditioning. We were conditioned to want that, and then discovered, oh wow, I didn't even want that. And that gets you closer to understanding what you do actually want and who you really are. Because, like, one of my favorite sayings is, you've got to find out who you're not in order to discover who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole process. That's the mindfulness process.
Yes, it definitely is. Being aware of like what you don't want. It reminds me of some the other day. My partner asked me like, "Well, what do you want to eat?" And I was like, "Well, I can tell you what I don't want to eat." So, and then like figure it out. We'll figure it out from there. So once you figure out like who you do not want to be, then you can work from that space. And I really like touching on that point of how other people's opinions, we've been trained to that they seem to have more weight than our own opinion of ourselves. And I think that that's a really valuable takeaway, because I think many people do struggle with the idea that, oh, well, what will people think of me if I do X, Y, and Z? And that connects to that Eric Erickson's stages of development, belonging, like feeling that need for belongingness, and really feeling like, will the world accept me as I am? And I think that what you're kind of pointing to is the first journey is to accept yourself and really stand in your power, and and allow the universe to confirm that for you.
Hmm. Exactly. And like realizing you don't need all of these conditions in place in order to like yourself. Like, I realized how much I was heavily relying on that, throughout my life, on and off. Even with having a TikTok audience, and gaining that audience, you start to attach your self-worth to that. And the mind is even, will even shame you for that too, right? Be like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way about that." But that's exactly what society has trained you to do. It'll tell you to do something, you do it, and shame you for doing that exact thing. That's the conditioning right there. It's hilarious, really, when you think about it. I'm like, it makes no fucking sense. Um, but once again, I totally forgot what we were originally talking
We're,
about.
yeah, we're still on fear, but I liked how you pointed out that like the society will shame you for it, and like it's like this. Oh, you want to be noticed. You want all these people to like view your content, obviously because we have a good message, right?
Hmm.
But then once you get a lot of people viewing your content, then you're like, oh, am I being like too out there, or like are too many people like looking at my stuff? Like maybe they'll think I'm all that in a bag of chips.
Exactly. It's really funny because I don't know. Once you become more aware of the mind, you start laughing at it because it's really ridiculous. It's really silly sometimes. You're like, that makes no sense, you silly little rascal.
That's a great defense mechanism. Like that's actually a really healthy way. When thinking about psychology and humor, that's a healthy humor habit to have.
Mm,
Is the ability to laugh at yourself, the ability to, look at those weird juxtapositions in life and be like, that's kind of funny. It helps relieve that stress too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because the mind's the only one that's taking things so seriously, right?
Mhm.
Like the mind definitely before this was like, oh, you've got to come off a certain way, Natasha. You got to know what you're doing. You can't close the door to the bathroom because the toilet's running. And then I was like, oh, you little rascal, once again. Mind strikes.
Yeah,
So yeah, so it's, I don't know, it's just questioning what's happening in here, questioning the validity of what's happening in here. That's my, I guess, my favorite game.
yeah. Another term for it in psychology is called like reality testing. And that's kind of like when you have a fear arise, you say, okay, well, what is it based off of? Is there actual evidence that this is going to happen? What's the worst that could happen? What's the least bad thing that could happen? And like you're testing that reality and then being like, oh, I didn't even have to worry about that.
Yeah, oh, I love that so much. Like I definitely want to learn more about what you do because you have like a whole plethora of goodness going on. All this stuff in your background, like super dope. Thank you for what you're doing, honestly. And it's
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, so I use a website called Therapist Aid. I'll put it in the link for people to look at. But it has stuff like that, where you can like look into reality testing, you can look into cognitive behavioral therapy, and you can like look at these worksheets to help you unpack the mind.
cool, cool. That sounds
Mhm. So you're doing all this social media stuff. Do you have like a muggle job or something?
a muggle job. I love that so much. So, I like have recently decided to just focus on building my own business. So no muggle job anymore. So I'm just focusing on expanding this and maybe coming out with a card game because I love thought provoking questions and I feel like that really is a step, like a huge step in my kind of direction. So yeah, just expanding that and kind of letting the universe have things unfold for me. And yeah, and taking care of health too, because I've had some health stuff come up, and so that's been a thing. And so health, and then building my own business. Life's good.
That's pretty amazing. So you're like turning your spirituality influencer self into like this like brand almost, and you're thinking about, well, what products can I create that really represent my brand?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I mean, it's so funny because I've lived for card games and board games. Like, I love that so much. So when the idea came to me, or when Source, whoever gave it to me, life, it made so much sense. I was like, yeah, that's super fun. Let me do that.
It's one of the High Vibe humans has commented, "I need said card game."
Oh, yay! Awesome.
Just these like deep philosophical questions. I know that on IBL you do an event called the Reframe Roundtable.
Uh-huh, yes. Yeah, yeah. So basically it's been different every time. Initially I was like, okay, this is gonna be a recurring event. And my ADHD was like, no, I want to change everything. And so then let me make my life more difficult and make each event completely different. Because I can't commit to one thing. I love too many things. But yeah, I started out with Reframe Roundtable and asking thought-provoking questions, and this goes very much in line with the card game. But yeah, one of my favorite questions that I posed to people on Ibble was, what's something you were surprised to discover was a social construct? And I freaking love hearing people's answers to that.
I was just listening to that one this morning, actually.
Yeah.
What was it, like something phasia, where people can't imagine images?
Yes, yeah, I forgot the name of it also, but yeah, where people don't have a mind's eye, where they cannot actually visualize or remember past memories in visual form, and that blew my mind, that because we assume everyone has that access to that ability, and so there are people that don't have that, and I wonder also if that makes them more present, that they can't do that. Like, I'm wondering.
Right. I think that there's people that don't have a mind's eye. There's people that can imagine only pictures, and there's people that can imagine only words, and then there's people that can imagine both. The tree, like when you say tree, you can think of the tree and you see the word also.
Oh, interesting.
I'm both. That's why I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. No, it's super fascinating just to hear how different people see the world, really, because
Right.
we're all assuming we're seeing it the same way, but we clearly are not. And it's dope to see just the different perspectives and how the same situation can be interpreted in like 1,000 ways.
I loved your event on Ibble because it allowed people to kind of dive into the sensation and perception part of life, and like what they're seeing and what they're perceiving and how it might be different from what society puts forth as something that's normal. One thing that I'm going to add to your event a little bit later today
Yeah.
is that I just discovered, people can see certain spectrums of light, and some people can see more than others. Like, we're all very familiar with color blindness, right? We're familiar with that idea.
Yeah.
But I just found out that, like, my partner can only he's like a dichromat. So he sees like 12 different colors. He sees like basically the rainbow plus a couple other colors in between.
Okay.
And I'm like a tetrachromat, and I can see like 35 different colors as
Oh.
opposed to his 12 colors. And we only figured that out because we were picking out paint colors for the baby stuff.
Oh.
And I was like, what about this color? What about this color? And he's like, they look the same. It looks the same to me. I was like, is that just like something that like a guy says, or is this like an actual thing? So I like, having curiosity about those thoughts in our head, I went and I looked it up online, and it's an actual thing. People do perceive like more spectrums of colors because of the cones in our eyes. So I really appreciate you being able to provide a space for people to dive into express, like moving from their throat chakra, expressing all the thoughts that they have in their head.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, one of my favorite, I love that story, by the way. That's amazing. You don't until you find yourself in that type of situation, you don't consider it, right? And so I kind of want to throw those situations in people's faces and being like, oh yeah, there are a whole bunch of perspectives that exist out there. And I believe that's how we learn best. That we can learn all together, that we are like living a life's course together and learning from each other. Like, it's great to introspect and learn on our own and meditate on the mountaintop. Like, that's all dope, but I feel like the real integration and the good challenging learning happens when we're able to listen to the perspectives of others, and we're offering different options to people. So like, I don't want to just be sharing my opinion with other people. That's why I love Ibble. It's like, okay, I'm sharing my opinion, and now everybody else gets to share their opinion too. And so the people watching it can either add their own or decide, hey, actually, I resonate with that person's perspective. Or it's like a mixture of these people. Or actually, it's none of them. And so that's just super exciting for me. And yeah, I had seen like someone asking if my Ibble was in my Instagram bio. It is. Just letting you know. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. So you have this idea of this card game, and you probably have a few other ideas in the works. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or like, what's your long-term vision that you're taking steps towards right now?
Um, so it's so funny and ironic. I don't know if you can hear my heater in the background. It's so loud. This is New York apartments, by the way, guys. Like, just loud heaters, and we have no control over it because it's an apartment building. It sounds weird to people that don't live in New York and don't live in an apartment building. Like, wait, you don't have control over your heat? It just comes on when it wants.
And if you're on the top floor, you're going to be in summer all summer.
Yeah, I am on the top floor also. But as far as like plan goes, it's so funny. I used to be such a planner. I'm a Virgo. Super duper planning girl here, historically super plan. And right now I'm actually I feel like I'm just taking things day by day and really just going to the next step, even if the mind wants to go a million times into the future, because I feel like for me it doesn't align to like plan super far ahead. And so yeah, it helps me stay more present. Like I want to be like, okay, what's the next step? Because I feel like we've been so trained to plan everything so much and to know everything, but that desire to know is also a conditioning as well, and it can align with who we are, and it also cannot. It's just like getting curious about it and be like, oh yeah, actually maybe I don't want to know everything in the future. Maybe I don't want to plan this certain thing or have like the next 10 steps figured out. For me, it's more about the next step. And I mean, it's a constant unlearning for me also, because the mind wants to know everything, but getting curious about it and like, why do you want to know everything? Why do you want to know everything so bad?
That safety and security. I want that security.
Exactly. So yeah, at the end of the day, all I know is that I'm going to be helping humans. Like that's what I'm always going to be doing. And it may look completely differently than I expect or exactly as I expect, but I'm open to it all. I'm totally open to however it's going to look. As long as I'm helping people, I feel good.
That's great. That's so like your long-term vision is like you want to help people however that manifests. You're going to take it moment by moment, step by step. And I like how you said that like we of course want to know, and we've heard that question before, like where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like when you were in high school, when you were in, college, if we were in middle school even, they've asked you that. And like the idea that we want to know, but sometimes we can get trapped in that future thinking. I also like how you pointed out that some people might resist that too. Like if they commit to something, like I wanted to get married by the time I was 28 and I'm 31, And so it's like if you commit to that thing, you might end up like hurting yourself with like some negative thoughts too because you set this plan for yourself and you were rigid about it instead of allowing yourself to be flexible and fluctuate with that ebb and flow of life.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's such a huge, huge learning and something I'm continually learning. Um, you know, retraining or untraining rather.
Yeah. Untraining that mindset, that mind. I love your whole like your brand, the Reframe Queen. I love that. It's really cute. I adore it.
Thank you so much.
So what would you say is the key to your success thus far?
It would be definitely being myself, showing up as myself. Because I'm very much about dismantling any sort of like perfectionism or social expectations of how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to show up in any given situation, questioning nerves, before this interview, right? Like, where are the nerves coming from? Why are they there? And there's nothing wrong with the nerves, of course. Like, they're allowed to be there. We can embrace them, but then just being curious about where the fuck they're coming from. It's like the training of like having, why people get nervous on first dates or meeting people for the first time. Because we want to show up a certain way. Why do we need to be super perfect in our presentation? Why can't we stutter? Why can't we lose our train of thought? Why can't we take a pause to think about something and then speak to it, right? Like there's even this thing like there can't be a moment of silence. Like there can't be. And I think about that like in the interviews on TV, or the really big names out there. I'm like, isn't there ever a pause, like a moment of silence where someone needs to chew something over? Like,
Right. They just respond right away.
yeah. And I always felt that pressure. And I'm someone that needs to actually really chew things over. I remember in job interviews constantly like, oh, I've gotta just say it right then and there. And I end up, word vomiting. And yeah, I don't know, it's a funny thing, but I would say, yeah, my success would definitely be because I'm showing up as myself, and people can relate to that. And I think, making the taboo untaboo, you know, bringing light to things that are normally shamed. I always put that forth. I'm always like, oh yeah, I live with my mom and I'm 30 years old. Oh no, how dare you? And then it's like really funny when you think about it, the people that would judge you for it, right? I'm just like, you take life really seriously, don't you?
You
Like,
must be kind of stressed out, huh?
yeah. And there are so many benefits to that too. I'm a brown woman, man. We live with our parents for a long time. Some brown people live with their parents their whole life. So
Very true. It can also be a cultural thing.
yeah.
I think that's an important thing to point out is that, especially when you talk about your like social constructs and social norms, those can change via like per culture even. So like, multiple generations living in one house. That's true. Like here in Michigan, in Dearborn, Michigan specifically, we have a high Indian population. So we have multiple like generations living under one roof. You got grandma, grandpa, and then you've got the young kids too.
Mm, mm. That's beautiful. Yeah. No, that's so great to highlight too, because we're looking at everything through this Western lens of like what's socially expected, and I'm sure there are 17-year-olds who have more independence than I do, and I'm like, so who cares? um, yeah, it's funny. It's just depends on culture, depends on what you want. If someone wanted to live with their parents for the rest of their lives, who says they can't do that? If someone wants to move out at 18, who says they can't do that? It's and with the pandemic and everything, so many things have changed, and there's so much shame going around, like people wanting a certain job or wanting to be further along in life. But whenever those thoughts come up for me, it's like, again, with questioning it, where is it coming from? Is this genuinely something I want? Is this something that's actually going to serve me? And then you can make the decision to be like, hey, have I been chasing after something I never even wanted? So yeah.
Exactly. So the key to your success is just being your authentic self. And I'm hearing a little bit of that you question all of those thoughts, and that really helps you be successful because once you get to the root of that thought, you can be like, all right, this is my authentic self, I'm going to share this. Or, oh, this was society's thought about how I should live, I'm going to discard that.
Yeah, exactly. And defining our own success too, I think, success is so often attributed to how many people are giving you those accolades. It's always put in the hands of other people. And it blows my goddamn mind every time I realize that. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, you're successful if you have a lot of followers, if a lot of people like you, if you won these awards, if your boss promoted you, if all these things, and there are all these things other people are handing to you. And never can your success be because you decided you were successful. And so that's so important to me. And I've experienced so much contrast in putting my success in the hands of other people, and we get distracted because that is the conditioning, and that's okay, and we learn from that and we grow from that. And I realized, oh yeah, it doesn't matter how many views this video gets, that doesn't determine my success. If literally no one saw my last TikTok or whatever, I would still be the exact same person. Right. Yeah. It's a beautiful journey, and unlearning it all, and it's like I enjoy the contrast too, even in the challenging moments of believing the views or believing other people when they see me the way I don't see me. I come back and I eventually remember who I am, you know.
That's beautiful. Well said. And I think that it's an important takeaway, the idea that to have a healthy relationship with success or healthy personal definition of success. And someone in the comments said it's all about making agreements with yourself and others. And so, like, and maintaining those agreements, like living in integrity. And it reminds me of how, like, my partner, he finally got his degree from Oakland University. Yay!
Oh,
But that was because he wanted to do that for himself. He
yeah.
wasn't seeking out any sort of validation from other people. He was just like, I want to finish this and be able to say that I did it, you know? And I think that that's a really important takeaway instead of feeling like pressured to go into doing a certain thing because you're going to get that reward from other people to validate your worth or to validate like what you said about creating a video, and if nobody sees that video, you're still the same person. But it reminds me of how, wait, when I used to make YouTube videos back in 2010,
Oh, not
all those
anymore.
videos are private now, but it's like I would make a video fully prepared that nobody would see it. But when I made it, I felt this sense of pride and success within myself. And I
Oh,
think that that's really important too, to allow yourself to do something for you and be authentic in your expression and not even caring if anybody sees it or not.
yeah, that's so beautiful. It's
So I really like your idea of like your key to success is just being your authentic self and really unpacking some of those things that that we've been trained to think about what success even means
yeah.
in society.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your story today. I really appreciate your perspective and I like your philosophical nature. That's really important because sometimes, like, people, especially in the mindfulness community, and I think you made a video about this recently, just like um, how you identify with spirituality is kind of a little bit different than how the spiritual community is defining it.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we shy away from getting into the mind,
Mhm.
but it's also important to dive into those thoughts and unpack, well, where is this thought coming from?
Yeah, for sure. No, thanks for mentioning that. And I feel like, it's a balance. I oftentimes have found myself on my own journey where it's like, oh, I think I found the answer. Like now all my problems are going to disappear. And it's like I'm focusing on just one aspect of my life, whether it just be like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the mind, or I'm just going to focus on the body, or I'm just going to focus on my health. And like we forget that it's like this whole giant balance and like, everything goes together. And so I have to also remember that because the mind loves to be like all or nothing mode and then just like go in. And so, I mean, it's been fun, but like I just remind myself, oh yeah, now I'm very cerebral. I'm all about the mind. I love talking about the mind, but sometimes I can get too wrapped up in that. I'm like, okay, this mind needs a freaking break. Like I can't think anymore. Okay, meditate, go back to the body, focus on the sensations in the body, and that not everything can be solved with the mind. That's like a huge realization as well, you know.
That's a powerful realization, definitely. And just having the ability to be like, all right, time for a pause. I'm gonna close my eyes and tune into the sensations of the body. And from like my previous meditations instructors, it's like when you tune into those sensations, it's giving the mind something to do. Being like, oh, there's that sensation, you know.
Exactly, it's so true. Like we need to give the mind something more chill to do, and yeah, it's fun not to solve things sometimes too.
Yeah, definitely take a break. So before we say goodbye to the high vibe humans, was there any additional advice that you wanted to impart to the people who are tuning in?
Hmm. Oh my gosh. Give your brains a break. That's what I want to say. That's what I feel called to say. Just as someone who has a very active mind. Like all of us have active minds because that's what the mind is designed to do. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, a huge thing for me is also bringing it back to the body and doing things for the enjoyment of them, and that there's what am I trying to say? I suppose the art of not trying, and that oftentimes solutions will just come to us, and we don't necessarily have to solve something. At least my biggest problems have been solved in that way, where it's just like, okay, I finally have given up trying to figure it out, and then that's when the download comes through, right? So yeah, my advice is just give your brains a break, even if it's for 5 minutes. Just to step away from the computer wherever you are. That's something I have to continually remind myself. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, no, they're throwing up lots of heart emojis right now for that comment, and I think that's really important. I did Magic Morning yesterday, and the card reading that I did talked about, taking that moment of rest and rejuvenation and allowing yourself to reflect on things, but also just giving yourself rest, giving your mind that rest that it needs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So if any of the High Vibe humans want to connect with you, where can they find you? How can they find you?
Yes, so I'm the Reframe Queen on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Ibble. Really especially excited about Ibble because it's a really meaningful way to connect, and where we can actually have a conversation, ask each other questions, or just share our opinions on everything. If you go to everything's linked in my profile as well. Again, the Reframe Queen, and yeah, my main followings on TikTok, but I don't know how I'm feeling about TikTok lately, to be honest. So it's been an interesting journey on TikTok. So yeah, so I'm like, okay, let me testing the waters on Instagram, and definitely invested in Ibble as well, because this is where we can really connect and have meaningful conversations. And it's not just about getting likes; it's about having a conversation and learning from it.
Getting those actual responses.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing faces or seeing or hearing voices, it feels, yeah, it's just a lot more fulfilling to me.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by, Natasha. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me. I was so psyched when you messaged me about this. It's been a pleasure. You inspire me. And thank you to everyone here who has tuned in. I love you all, and sending you virtual hugs and high fives.
Yeah. I love the high five thing. I was like, yeah,
Yeah, at the same time. There we go.
we got it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Natasha. All right, High Vibe humans, please feel free to check out her Instagram, click the links in her bio to download the Ibble app, and start your journey on Ibble today. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you, Natasha, for stopping by.
Much love to everyone. Bye.
Bye.